This is Lesson 3-2 from the Algebra Readiness textbook. To begin this lesson, I'd like you to pull out your notes packet and begin working on these 4 study guide problems. Once you've completed these problems, unpause the video and continue. The first study guide problem says, you buy a video game that costs $17.98. With tax, you pay $19.24. Write and solve an equation to find the amount of tax, X, that you paid. Be sure to label your answer. The first thing I see is that I need to define my variable. My variable, X, represents the tax that I'm going to pay. When I make a plan to solve, I write an equation. My equation is $17.98 for the video game, plus my tax equals the total amount of $19.24. When I solve using inverse operations and subtracting $17.98 from both sides, I get a value of $1.26. That remaining balance is the amount of my tax, $1.26. The following 3 questions ask us to solve the equations, making sure you completely show the proper method, meaning using inverse operations to both sides of the equation, and then check your answer using substitution. N plus 21 2/10 equals 31 87/100. To solve this, I need to isolate my variable n. To do that, I need to subtract 21 2/10 from both sides. When I subtract 21 2/10 from both sides, notice how I lined up the decimal points on the right-hand side here. And then I subtracted. I also put the extra 0 in as a placeholder. And I got 10 67/100. The next problem, n plus 17 3/10 equals 8 2/10. To show all of my work, I use the inverse operation of subtracting 17 3/10 from both sides. Now, I can't do that the way that it's stacked here in the problem, so I go ahead to the right and I do a side problem where I put the 17 3/10 on the top and subtract 8 2/10, still lining up my decimal points, and then determining the sign of the answer to be negative, -9 1/10. Number 13, this time I start with the right-hand side of the equation, where I add 12 9/10 to both sides of the equal sign. When I add 12 9/10, I need to use a 0 placeholder on the left here and solve it, and I get 28 86/100. And then, of course, I encourage you to check your work. Today's learning target is to use estimation to find products and quotients. So we're not actually solving the problems today. We are estimating to get a close answer so we can anticipate if our real answer is correct. You can use mental math to estimate products and quotients. It's a good idea to estimate answers to check your calculations. For example, if I were going to estimate 7 65/100 times 3 2/10, I would rename 7 65/100 by rounding each value to the nearest whole number. This could be rounded to 8. 3 2/10 could be rounded to 3. 8 times 3 is 24. Now, the actual answer is 24 48/100. You can see that because my estimated answer is very close to my actual answer is probably correct. Because of previous lessons, I know that you've gotten very good at estimating. Make sure that when you estimate, you round both numbers to the same place value, and then give your estimated product. Pause the video, do each of these 3 problems on your screen, and then continue the video when you're ready to compare your answer. For the first one, I rounded the 2 numbers to 5 and 2, and my estimated answer is, or product, is 10. The next problem. I rounded my numbers to 20 and 4. 20 times 4 is 80. Now you might have rounded a little different. You might have rounded to 17 and 4, or 17 and 0 tenths times 3 and 8 tenths. Those will all work also. I try to do the ones that allow me to do the math in my head, because a lot of times you want to be able to do a quick check that your work is correct. Letter C, I rounded to 8 and 20. 8 times 20 is 160. When dividing, remembering these names for parts of the division sentence become important. You have the dividend, which is usually the biggest number. It's the one you're dividing into equal groups. The divisor is how many equal groups, and then the answer, or the number of pieces in each group, is your quotient. So we have a dividend, the divisor, and the quotient. All right, so now that we've refreshed that vocabulary, let's start with some new vocabulary. This one I want you to put a star by because it is going to show up on your quiz. You need to be able to define compatible number. What is a compatible number? Well, compatible numbers are friendly numbers that are close in value to the numbers that you're working with and easy to divide mentally. Take a minute to pause the video and get that definition written down. In this example, to round these two numbers, I could round to the nearest ones place, and I would get 31 divided by 6. But 31 divided by 6 does not come out evenly, and I can't do it quickly in my head. Instead, for division, when we're estimating, we like to use compatible numbers. So two numbers that are close to 31.423 and 5.94 are 30 divided by 6. Notice 30 is close to 31 and 423 thousandths, and 6 is close to 5 and 94 hundredths, but they don't really follow any of the rounding rules. But I can use 30 divided by 6 and know that my answer is 5. So when I'm doing this problem for real, my answer should be about 5. So compatible numbers. Let's use compatible numbers in this scenario. Dane, Jay, and Willow did some early trick-or-treating. They all dumped their bags of candy together and had 88 pieces of candy. About how many pieces should each kid get if they share them evenly? Well, if you have 88 pieces of candy and you divide it evenly amongst 3 children, that would be 88 divided by 3. I guarantee you your parents are not going to get out a calculator or write it down on a piece of paper and figure out what is 88 divided by 3 exactly. Instead, they're probably going to say 90 divided by 3 because those two numbers are compatible, and you can divide them easily in your head and say each child gets approximately 30 pieces of candy. Using compatible numbers, estimate each quotient. Pause the video until you're done with the 3 problems, and then come on back to check your answer. I chose the compatible numbers of 40 and 2. You could have chosen something different. This is not your only set of compatible numbers, but you will still get a number close to 20 as your solution. The quotient to the next problem, in problem B, is similar to or is close to 6, 12 divided by 2. For the last one, I chose 80 divided by 4, and I got 20. You might have chosen something different, but your numbers should be close to what I got. You can estimate to determine the reasonableness of results. For example, is 2 and 15 hundredths a reasonable quotient for 17 and 931 thousandths divided by 8 and 34 hundredths? Well, you can figure that out by using compatible numbers. Instead of 17 and 931 thousandths, I chose the number 16 because it's easy to divide by 8, and I get 2. So because somebody else might have looked at that and said, I'm going to round my numbers to 18 divided by 9. Still, I get the number 2. Because 2 is close to 2 and 15 hundredths, I would say, yes, that is a reasonable quotient. Why? Because 2 is close to 2 and 15 hundredths. You try. Pause the video and give these two problems a try. Then come back to compare your answer. The compatible numbers I chose were 1 and 6/10 and 2. When I divide that, I get 8/10. To me, 8/10 is pretty close to 68 hundredths, so yes, that is a reasonable quotient. In B, the compatible numbers I chose were 25 divided by 5. I got the answer of 5. 5 is nowhere close to 52 and 3/10, so no, that is not, 52 and 3/10 is not a reasonable solution to that problem. I need to go back and check my math. Quilt fabric costs $6.75 a yard. You want to buy 6 yards. The cashier says the total is $45.90 before tax. Is the cashier correct? I would want to take $6.75 times 6. I don't know about you, but I find it easier to round that to approximately $7 times 6 is $42. Now, the cashier told me that the total is $45.90. So I would say, that's pretty close. So yeah, that sounds okay to me. Pause the video and try this one on your own. My dad has an old-fashioned camera and buys 8 rolls of film for your upcoming vacation. Each roll costs $4.79. Estimate the cost at checkout before tax. Well, if each roll is $4.79, I need to take 8 times $4.79. That is not easy to do in my head, so I use 8 times 5 and get $40 as my estimate. So $40 is what I would expect to pay. Let's try to show your mastery on the 3-2 worksheet.